Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Matthew Maz Fishing, and I just want to start this video off by saying thank you guys very much for all the support I have been receiving lately. 2019, I have a lot of big plans, and I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on the channel. I am going to try to bring you guys videos weekly, so at least one video a week at the very minimum. Now, that is time permitting. I am in university. Sometimes it gets extremely tough to upload. I can only really get home and fish if I'm lucky about twice a week. That won't happen every week, so hopefully I will be able to stack a couple videos and post at least once a week for you guys. Now into today's video. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. So for the ice fishing season this year, I recently started using Minnows, live bait. And it's something that can be a bit of a pain in the butt because really every time I want to go fishing, I have to make sure that I get minnows the night before, as well as you got to make sure, you know, everything's working, the water's nice and cold, you're keeping them alive, etc. So what I've decided to do today is make basically sort of like a homemade live well aquarium type of thing for all my minnows, a little bait well, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to do it. So everything I bought in this video, literally the entire thing, you can find at either your local Canadian Tire, pet store, Walmart, etc. It's pretty easy stuff to get your hands on, and it's pretty cost efficient as well. I didn't have to spend too much, and it's gonna save me a lot of time. I can now buy my minnows a little bit more in bulk, buy like a big bag of them rather than having to go once a week to the store. It can be a huge pain in the butt because some of these stores aren't open super late. Sometimes when I'm coming home from school, I can only afford to do so late at night. So it's gonna make things a lot easier. Also, because a lot of these places aren't open super early in the morning, I'd rather get my sleep and be able to get to the lake for first light. Now I'm gonna take you guys through basically everything I bought, take you through the price of everything, and show you guys how I'm gonna do it. I've never done this myself, so hopefully it works out. Okay guys, so first things first, obviously you're going to need somewhere to put all the minnows and the water. So you can't go buy a fish tank, like a glass tank. However, those can get pretty expensive. So I literally just went to Canadian Tire and I found a pretty big bucket. It's just like a regular storage container. It was around $13, I think it was on sale. This one's really big. It's 121 liters. Now again, that's probably more than the majority of you are gonna need. You can probably get away with doing something as little as probably about 50 or so liters. However, I wanna give them a little bit more room. I'm not gonna fill the bucket up all the way, but it also gives me the opportunity to do so if I want to. Figure I might as well buy once and get the most use out of what I buy. So the container sold for about $15. So the next thing we're gonna need in order to keep the fish alive, this is a necessity for sure. You definitely are gonna need this. We went out to our local PetSmart and we bought one of these. It is a top fin air pump. So this is basically your aerator. This is one that you can actually plug into the wall so you can have it running 24/7. This one says it's good up to 40-gallon aquariums. So I just did the conversion. 40 gallons is good up to about 151 liters. So very, very big tank. Definitely more than enough that I'm gonna need for this. And essentially that pumps all your air into the water, which is what keeps the fish alive. Without having air in the water, those fish are basically gonna suffocate once all the oxygen in the air in the water is used up. So that thing was, I think, the most priciest thing that I purchased. I have the receipt here. It was $30 for that air pump. Again, you can get a smaller one. They had one that was for 20-gallon tanks, which I think was about $20. It was a little bit less. However, I also decided if I ever want to do some sort of tank thing in the future, this gives me the option to do so. To add on to the aerator, you are going to need some of this stuff. It is called your Airline Tubing. That is, as you can see, an 8-foot piece, and that was very cheap. It was only about $4 for that. And the last thing you are going to need is, it's called an air stone. That was also very cheap. I got on sale. It was only 87 cents. It's a little snail. The next thing I got, which is also pretty necessary in order to keeping these fish alive, is water conditioner. So the water conditioner was about $10, and this is good up to 236 gallons of water, so it's gonna last me a really long time. Definitely a lot more than I need, but again, better safe than sorry. I'd rather buy a little bit of a bigger bottle off the get-go so I don't need to continuously buy it. And the last thing that I got was only $2. It is just a little fish net by Topfin. 6-inch net. Let me scoop the minnows out, make my life nice and easy. Basically, the two necessities in order to keep these minnows alive, you are gonna need, like I said earlier, the aerator. That is absolutely key. And cold water is also very, very key. So in order to keep the water cold, what I'm gonna do is just leave it in my cold cellar. It is winter, it gets pretty cold down there, more than cold enough to keep that water nice and cool for the minnows to survive. So I'm gonna take you guys through how you would set up the aerator, the pump, take you guys through basically the steps that I'm taking in order to set up my little minnow tank. I'm gonna open it up, have a plain old box. There's the unit. Don't need this. There's some instructions inside. Remove it from the packaging. So that's the unit there. It's made by Top Fin. As you can see, it's basically an aquarium company. And this one's like actually a dual feed. So you can see there's two little nozzles there. So I'm gonna put tubing on both sides. So now we're gonna take our tubing out of the packaging. That's literally it right there. It's an 8-foot piece of tubing, so it's very big. I'm probably just gonna cut it in half. That gives me more than enough to play with and get it all set up properly. So at this point, all you're gonna do, get your tubing, put it end to end, and basically find the halfway point. It's actually kinked pretty evenly at the same spots, which is roughly about right there. Give that a good cut. And there we go. Now we have two 4-foot pieces of tubing. You could even probably cut these down more, but I don't see any harm in having a longer piece of tubing. I can just wrap it in the water. Now that we have all the tubing cut, we're gonna take the tubing and attach it to the nozzles on the end there. So those just slide right on. I did make sure prior to buying it that it does fit. I don't know if there's any sort of size or anything like that, but it would really suck if you got home and the tubing you bought didn't fit the aerator you purchased. So that slides on nice and snug. There we have it, 2 pieces. We're gonna take the air stone out. Like I said, there's the little air stone. It's a little snail, pretty sick. I'm pretty pumped. Take the end, slide it on. You're gonna want to slide that probably as close as you want on, I'm assuming. Make sure it doesn't come off. There we have it. So guys, the next step is going to be to fill our bucket. Okay guys, so we now have that about a little over half full. We're gonna say we have about 70 liters inside of the container. So this says per 10 US gallons, you're gonna do 10 milliliters of the water conditioner. That's gonna be the next step, as you wanna make sure your water's good before you put those fish in it. So 70 liters is just about 20 gallons. So we're gonna do about 20 milliliters of the water conditioner inside of the tank. So now that we've added the conditioner, we are going to let it sit and kind of mix into the water. You can stir it around a little bit and just basically let it mix in and make sure it's completely conditioned for the fish before they go into the tank. Okay guys, we have semi set up our tank. We have the aerator inside. I put the hoses in. I have run the extension cord. We're in my cold cellar, as you can see, cement walls. Keeps everything nice and cold with the little air intake from outside. I filled it with water. I put the bricks in. I should have rinsed them first. I have a tiny bit of dirt, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So as you can see, I put some bricks inside there. There's 2, and then there's one on top that kind of crosses over. So there's actually a little slit in between right there that you can see. So the hose is running through it without being crimped. I have that on both sides because it's a dual hose aerator, as I was showing you earlier. And now it's the moment of truth. Let's see if it works. And there you have it, guys. We now have air to our tank for our fish. Looks really awesome. Everything looks to be working. Next step, transfer the fish. Okay guys, so as you can see, as I showed you a second ago, we now have our tank running. In my cold cellar, we got some food in the background. But regardless, we have our fish here, which I've currently been storing in a little bucket. That's the one with the aerator combo. It works good temporarily, but it's not good for like a week or, you know, even a couple days. Some of the fish will start to die. So now we're gonna transfer them over. We got a little net here that I showed you earlier. First scoop of fish. The initial release, here they go. Much more room for all these fish in their new home. And they are off. Looks like it's working as it should. So guys, it is a little bit later on. I'm now actually editing this video, and one thing you might notice is I didn't buy a filter. Now I did that on purpose. I bought a 125 liter container, which is quite large, especially just for minnows. I plan on putting roughly 30 or 40 minnows in at a time. That's probably what I would guess the max is gonna be, which isn't that much for how big the container is. And for that reason, I don't really suspect the water clarity is gonna get that bad or that cloudy. In the case it does in the future, I will check in, make another video, and probably add a filter to the tank. There you have it. For only about $70, you are able to set up a pretty sick minnow tank. I think that tank's gonna help keep my minnows alive for weeks. I won't have the issue of many dying out anymore, and it'll keep my bait nice and fresh. It was all roughly, I think at the end of it, about $60 or $70, which is relatively cheap, and I was able to buy everything from a simple store like Canadian Tire and PetSmart. Thank you guys very much for tuning into this video. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your post notifications. I will be posting a new video every single week. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and have a great day. Peace.